All right, Carl. So you mentioned that. So we were talking about the ghost thing, what that is and what the kids are doing and all that stuff. But on the other side of that is when you don't return a call for somebody or you disappear on somebody or whatever, like they make something of it, right? Like,
Right.
if somebody doesn't return my call, then it's like, oh my gosh, this person hates me, or they think this of me, and this and that, and this and that. So we were talking about what the meanings that people make out of things, and more specifically in like from a self-development type of aspect.
Yeah.
So elaborate a little bit on that.
I mean, everybody knows somebody cuts you off, that person up there is a jerk, and, why would they ever think of doing that? Like that person driving their car right there would never cut anybody off. It becomes they personalize it.
Right.
Everything becomes personalized, right? So somebody won't return your call, and you call them back, and they're short with you, or they won't ever talk to you. You've expected a call from them all week long, and it's been a month, and you haven't heard from them. Won't return your phone calls. You personalize that. You said it earlier. We're all looking for the default version of us always looks for what's wrong with us.
Mm-hmm.
So we look for that evidence of what's wrong with us, and it's not hard to find when you're looking for it.
And you know what? And that's like the most dangerous out of all because, and I think that's why people get stuck in a cycle because, like you said, let's just say, to bring it back into the professional setting or whatever. I mentioned that, somebody says, that's kind of stupid. You make me think this person thinks I'm stupid. So therefore, all of the people that I work with think that I'm stupid. And that kind of becomes part of your past or your history or whatever you call the story. And then it's kind of like that becomes what you live up to. You know what I mean? Like that almost never gets handled, right? So you make something to mean about yourself. So, you were mentioning to me your story about dancing, if you don't mind sharing, like how at some point somebody said that you were a bad dancer or something like that, and you lived your life thinking that you were a bad dancer?
Yeah, I mean, I had it that my sister was the fun person.
Okay.
And she was always outgoing, expressive, had friends, and was always at friends' houses and friends over. And I was a little bit more of you never had to tell me to study.
Okay.
I was somebody who would be reading in the room or doing homework. I had friends, but I didn't that wasn't my everything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just had it. My sister was a very social person, and I guess I had some opportunities to go to a dance or be at a dance, and I just had it that I was not a dancer.
Okay.
I was going to look stupid. I was all 2x4, stiff as a board, trying to dance. And so at a very young age, I just sort of canceled myself,
Mm-hmm.
canceled that as something I could do. And that lasted with me forever. And people would come, over the various years, over the time of my life, as time passed, people would come and say, let's go dancing, or you want to go dancing, and all that. And, I just declined every time. I would never dance. I was a wall hugger. I was a wallpaper, wallflower, or whatever. The way I got over it was, for more than 30 years, I carried that story, that internal cancel me story,
Mm-hmm.
that I couldn't dance. And the way I got over it is a very nice friend of mine, a lady who's married. She said, I'm going to be going out to dinner at a restaurant. I've got some girlfriends coming. Would you like to come along? So I said, sure, I'll come along. And so I met him there at the restaurant. First thing I looked for, because this was like 8 o'clock at night, it wasn't just like a 6 or 7 o'clock dinner at a food chain or something. So the first thing I looked for was there a dance floor? There was tables everywhere, so I didn't see a dance floor. I thought everything's safe. So, and then I just put it out of my mind. I went and sat down and started having, dinner and hanging out with these, nice girls. And
So you were
looking
going
around
through your life avoiding
Yeah.
dance floors.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, the ghosting thing. I
Yeah,
was avoiding.
You were ghosting a
I
dance
was
floor.
ghosting
Okay.
dance floors because I was an idiot looking guy on
Yeah.
the dance floor.
Yeah.
That's how I had it. So then, so we're sitting there at the table, and it's getting later and later. Things are kind of slowing down. People are eating less, and all of a sudden, the staff there at the restaurant, they start clearing tables out. I'm like, what are they? They're clearing tables. Oh, there's a dance floor underneath the tables.
Turns into a salsa club afterwards.
Right away, instant transformation into the nightclub.
Nice.
All of a sudden, I went from a restaurant to a nightclub right away with a dance floor and a band. You know, they're up there tuning up the whole thing.
Nice.
So, you know, these girls are sitting around. We've been talking, been making a great conversation, having a fun time, eating. You know, that place was packed, and these you know, these 2 or 3 girls, they get up and one of them just grabbed me by the hand and said, "Come on, let's go to the dance floor." Well, you know, I just like, I don't know how to describe that. What's a good way to describe it? I felt like I became kind of, inside my mind, I became totally paralyzed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what am I going to do? Yeah.
You were catatonic.
My body was moving because she was pulling me, but I was like paralyzed inside. How am I going to get out of this? I got to tell them.
Does she not know I'm a 2x4? Yeah, okay.
I got to let her know my story. I'm not a dancer. I don't dance.
Yeah.
But instead of doing that, I stopped that. Well, let's say I didn't get overcome by that story. I just let it kind of go. And I went out there and I saw a couple of other guys that looked good while they were dancing, I thought. So I just tried to copy them. And before you know it, like we danced at least 3 or 4 songs. This was like, I can tell you, like the first few minutes on the dance floor, it was like the hardest time I'd ever had in my life in years. Like it was like so fearful and scary to me.
You know, it's so funny though, because, you know, like, you know, getting kind of tying it all together. So it's like the meaning that we assign to things that essentially become part of, you know, the story about who we are, or essentially shape our identity.
Yeah.
You know, like your identity was, I'm not a dancer. Just like someone's identity may be, I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm not a business person. I'm not a, you know, whatever. I'm not a marketing person. And it's like, that becomes like a limiting belief, right? Like it's
totally
like a core belief
that
holds you back. And then that story, it's like, you know, when we talked about the stories or our past really become our future that you live into. You live into that future of you not being a dancer.
Right.
But then you overcome that and you're like, it's a no thing, man. Like it's nothing.
It was all made up.
Yeah, it's all made, like,
it was all made up by me.
it up that I'm not a dancer, and then you actually are a dancer.
I danced, and you know, later that night, as we danced like multiple songs, they actually made a dance circle around me while I'm dancing, like a solo dance there in the middle of this circle of, you know, really nice ladies.
Yeah.
So it was liberating, but you know, you let the thoughts and criticisms and opinions of others define you. You know, it takes all it really takes your life away. But guess what? You do it to yourself too.
Yeah.
Thoughts, you have your own thoughts, opinions, and self-criticisms
exactly. It's
that
like,
define you.
It's funny because you know, like I said, you know, somebody may say something to you, and in your case, nobody really did, right? Nobody said you.
I don't have a specific memory of that.
Yeah, but your self-talk was, "I'm not a dancer."
Right.
So it's not like we're such a machine. Like your default setting was to automatically assign that to yourself. Mm-hmm. Your self-talk was, you know, don't go out there. You're gonna look stupid. You know, like you're talking to yourself. You know, like you know, the
fear of looking bad.
Fear of looking bad. Yeah, you know, don't go out there. You're gonna look bad. People are gonna make fun of you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, so what? It's not a thing.
And nobody made fun of me. Nobody noticed me.
People are probably more concerned with their own stuff.
No one could have cared less that I was out there on the dance floor.
Exactly.
Except me.
But you
I had so personalized it. Yeah.
Yeah, you personalize it and it becomes a limiting belief. You know, it really holds you back on. And you had a good time, apparently, right?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
So it's like it robbed you out of your, what would you call it? Livelihood? Like what
aliveness, joy.
Aliveness, joy, yeah.
You cancel your aliveness and joy.
Yeah. It's so interesting, man, how many people are out there that just kind of wished that they could take action on their lives, whether it's being in this field, whether being in real estate, or whether being in business for themselves, or, you know, I mean, there's people out there that have a lot to contribute. But, you know, sometimes I think about what would life be like if these people actually took on taking themselves a little bit more, I guess, what's the word? I guess take a more realistic approach, like separate the, you know, the what really is made up and what really is reality, like the reality from what's made up.
Yeah.
You know?
There's there's a person, I don't remember who right now, but there's a person who said that in the graveyard lies the most potential that there ever was
Yeah.
to humanity.
Yeah.
People that didn't live their full potential.
Yeah.
There's so many of them that go to the grave that way.
Taking
go-
your secrets to the grave.
They
and
take their
yeah,
full potential,
to the
never
grave.
expressed it, and they die.
Yeah.
And so, it almost makes me wonder, if we overcame just one fear, every human overcame one fear or one holdback, because we have way more holdbacks than actual limitations. We hold ourselves back, like me as a dancer. So the limitation was not really there physically, but the holdback was strong. But if we could just, wonder what it would look like if we could all just overcome one holdback we have. What a different world it would be, It's not, it's a world of conflict, right? Mostly the natural order of things is more toward conflict. The unnatural state, like what happens unnaturally, is peace. Some things just happen naturally, like conflict, force, and some things don't happen naturally, like peace and power and prosperity. Usually, instead of prosperity, what happens naturally is, scarcity, survival. So if you look on one side, if we could just overcome one of those opposites, survival, power, or force, power, survival, thrive. If we could just take one of those all the way to the end point, disturbance, peace of mind. If we could just achieve any one of those opposites, that would bring a lot of power to our lives.
But how do you
Afraid,
move from
not afraid.
How do you move from one end of the spectrum to the next, though?
Some people never do. Let's just start with that. And then those that do, some people are timid their whole life. They're shy or timid, or they're not a dancer, like I was for over 30 years. The only thing that makes change is some motivation for that change. And usually it's going to be, there's some sort of value to it. Change always follows value, or at least perceived values. You could argue whether every change is value, but at least there's value or perceived value. So, if you perceive yourself as not a dancer, but you see there's value in dancing, like I did that night, I wanted to be part of the group. The value was to be part of the group, so I just instantly changed. So there's usually some value or some motivation behind it. And that's what you got to get clear on when I keep saying clarity, conviction, commitment. You got to get clear. But if you want change, if people are just performing to lifeless goals, they'll be lifeless about achieving them. It has to have a motivation to it. That's that clarity piece.
That's that why that we talk about.
The why. What's it about? And usually it's a value-oriented thing. It's some sort of value. If you're not a public, like a lot of people can't public speak.
Yeah.
That's like the number, one or it's
number
above,
one fear.
It's number one fear over death, according to the Seinfeld episode.
Yeah.
Well, but people do overcome it. And why they overcome it, their why is usually it's going to create a career advancement for them. People that speak well are not just doers in the world, they're movers. They move others. You're transformational, motivational speaker. You're not just a doer, heads down in a cubicle, in a dark room, in your, in a closet or whatever, just doing behind the curtain all the time. You're out in front of people. It's leverage. Number one, you're talking to one to many. There's value in that. Just imagine if you could speak to 50 prospects at one time instead of one by one by one.
Right.
It's huge value in being a speaker. It's huge value.
Yeah.
And it could be career advancement. It could be your own sense of self. For me, it was a long time. I never had, honestly, I don't ever remember having fear of speaking, honestly. I don't know why. I have, fumbled big time in speaking. One time I had a speech totally memorized. I got one word off, and I paralyzed. I froze. And I had a 3-minute speech. I spoke for 10 seconds, and then I just stood there looking at the room.
Wow, that's scary.
Because they weren't going to take my time.
Yeah.
But they gave me my full 3 minutes, unfortunately. If somebody had saved me, that would have been fine, but nobody did.
So you stood there for 3
I
minutes?
stood there in front of a room of at least 80 people for 2.5 minutes or more, trying to reconnect where I'd stumbled, where I'd lost my
Wow.
memorized speech.
Now you would have thought that would have been enough for you to be like, I'm never doing this ever again.
Now, since we're talking about ghosting, I ghosted that. It was a business organization. I ghosted that big business organization from then on. Honestly,
Did
to
you?
be honest, yeah.
Yeah.
But I still have some friends from there, and nobody really thinks about it, but you do.
Yeah, you get stuck with that. Did you make anything out of that?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
But it didn't stop me, So how do you move forward? You look at the value of something. How do you look for how to change yourself? You look for the value of it. What is it like? And you've done this too. Here's where you are now. What does it look like beyond that obstacle, that barrier, or whatever? What does it look like when you're at the outcome? So imagine you're fearful of speaking, but all of a sudden you have a room. Somebody calls you and says, "Look, we want you to come speak on real estate. Do you have a program you can sell there?" And the minimum programs that sell there are $1,500 or $2,500. Would you be interested in speaking? All of a sudden you'd be,
Yep, no fear.
No
Let's go sell some real estate stuff.
let's go sell some seminars.
Yeah.
And you'd be up in front of that room. I mean, man, so you have to look for what empowers you to do it, and usually it's usually a value kind of
And another thing that I want to actually talk about is, the more and more I talk about these things with you, the more that what opens up for me is, it's a lot of it is about building really small steps towards something, like really building the right habits, towards that. Once you know your why, your purpose, like you said,
Yeah.
then it really becomes because I don't know, if you told me, and I'm a kind of a stubborn guy, if you told me like, oh no, you don't suck, blah blah blah, go out there and do it. Yeah, there's gonna be some motivation there for me to do it, but I'm gonna be, man, I'm so paralyzed by fear that and I say that because people are usually really reluctant. Am I saying that right? Reluctant to make steps forward, and sometimes what's necessary is taking those small steps.
Can I connect in?
Yeah.
There are four. We all look at goals typically as kind of goal, just one word. Don't give it a whole lot of definition or distinction. There's actually 4 types of goals. There's 4 goal types. This speaks exactly to what you're talking about. The first is stretch. We're all familiar with stretch. A little bit, where we are plus a little bit more, kind of work back and forth, work back a percentage more, or, something. Stretch goal. The other is attract. The acronym is SALL. A is attract. And in attract, you're starting to have some magnetism. You're starting to have something that attracts people towards you. You've got a confidence. Realize, the number one need in the world is clarity. The whole need of the whole world can somehow be related and connected back to clarity. Clarity on their purpose, of their mission, what gives them value, what's meaningful to them, and so forth. Their why, as you've been saying. So, this path of clarity is absolutely the thing that has to be worked through, and that's when you have that clarity, you attract people. I say that when you are clear, you become a lens through which others see.
I like that.
Yeah. So that's attract. When you become clear, you feel I've got some clarity in my life, right? My purpose and my vision and mission in life is peace, power, and prosperity. I create peace, power, and prosperity by accelerating high achievers to significant success and wholehearted fulfillment. That is my vision and mission. Okay, I'm clear. So people come to me all about the money, all about the transactionalism. Not really, I'm not really your guy for that. Your man for that. You come to me, man, I just don't have any gas in the tank. I'm not really motivated. I don't like have a, I've lost my edge. I don't see what all this is for. Is this as good as it gets? That's even a movie, right? Is this as good? Is this all there is? Then that's when I help them with their clarity and so forth. The next is leverage. Leverage is doing things one to many. You're putting a video on. That's one to many. Many people can see that now. Once you create it, it's done. It's evergreen, as they say. So that's leverage. When you speak, that's leverage. That's a leverage goal. When you create other leaders, if you're an organization if you're a person just doing everything, but you can create other leaders, now you've freed up some time to be even more intentional about other things of importance to you. So that's leverage. Stretch, attract, leverage. And the last one, because you're talking to me about, it's small steps. Yes, it can be small steps. It can be the stretch things. But the last one is leap goal. Stretch, attract, leverage, leap. And leap is the world of transformational.
Just jump into it.
You go and you just go and you just go. And whatever obstacle or interior state of mind you have, inner state of mind you have, you learn to manage it, and you can make leaps that way. One of the clients I had, he spoke to a room of over 200 highly successful financial people, financial advisors, insurance people, and so forth. Within 2 weeks, he was approached to be on the board of 2 multi-billion-dollar companies.
Wow.
That is a leap from one speech.
Yeah.
That's what I was working with him on, was his speech to a room. He'd never spoken to a room of hundreds of people. Okay? Another person I worked with, they bought the $8 million business where they were employed.